Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and today we're going to go over the Sunday night matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to go into some of the key moments in this game. We're going to break down some of the big plays, where the momentum shifted and what that meant. And then finally, we're going to wrap it up, going over individual players. We're going to talk about their production and what we can project for their matchups for fantasy in Week 4. But without further ado, let's get into this Relentless Rundown. The Packers would get the ball first and start out fast on the arm of Aaron Rodgers. He hits a 37-yard play downfield to Allen Lazard, setting the Packers up in great field position. However, there is a face mask. Later on in the drive against Green Bay, they would move it down to second down and 29, and ultimately they would have to settle for a 54-yard field goal by Mason Crosby. It was 3-0 Green Bay with 10:06 to go in the first. San Francisco would get the ball back. They were able to do one first down, but then ultimately had to punt. Green Bay's offense would continue to roll in the second possession. He hits another 37-yard strike, this one to Marquez Valdes-Scantling for the Packers. Now on 3rd and 6, Rodgers is able to evade pressure, step up in the pocket, and laser one into a very tight window, and a catch for Davante Adams right at the goal line. The very next play, they get Adams that score, and it's 10-0 Packers. Aaron Rodgers starts this game 9 of 9, 127 yards, and just 3:13 to go in the first. Green Bay is rolling. San Francisco's offense continues to sputter early. They go 3 and out and actually get lucky as Jimmy Garoppolo had an open receiver but missed him and throws a near pick. Now Green Bay, they finally slow down. They go 3 and out, but there's a defensive pass interference. They're allowed that first down, but then take a sack and end up having to punt. A key moment in this game happens next, as for the first time, Jimmy Garoppolo steps back and tries a deep ball to stretch the defense. He throws it into double coverage. It is a very poor decision, and the ball is picked off by the Packers. I think it's also where you started to notice an inability in this 49ers offense to potentially stretch the field. Green Bay gets right back to it. They're able to move the ball downfield with ease. The Niners are giving up big chunk yardage plays, and the Packers have a 4th and 1 from the Niners' 2-yard line. Now they do decide to go for it, not taking the points, and I do like that aggressiveness, even though it ends up not working for them on an incomplete pass and a turnover on downs. It still pins the Niners back in their own end zone. If I'm being honest, I probably would have liked them to hand it to Aaron Jones in that situation because he had been so good so far. San Francisco now has 3rd down and 4, still backed up in their own end zone at the own 10-yard line, and a great contested catch is made by Deebo Samuel. It stops the bleeding for the Niners, gives them just a little bit of momentum on offense, and they're able to move it down a couple more times with big catches by Brandon Ayuk and by George Kittle. Now, on 3rd down and 1, there's a clear offside by Green Bay. One guy is lined up offside, another guy jumps offside, and there's no flag. And it almost looked like the Niners were expecting a flag on the play because they snapped it and then didn't really run a great play. It was a run that got stuffed, but they're looking for the flag, which never came. The 49ers end up having to punt the ball away. The Packers offense, which has looked unstoppable so far in the first half, are held by a 30-yard defensive pass interference and then a couple big catches by Davante Adams. The drive is capped off by a 3-yard touchdown run by Aaron Jones. That makes it 17-0 Green Bay with just over a minute to go in the first half. The Niners have a huge momentum shifter right before the half, and it comes in the terms of a kick return. Now they have a great one all the way down to Green Bay's 32, setting them up in position to score. They face a 3rd down and goal from the 2-yard line with just 2 seconds to go in half, and down 17-0, they decide to go for it leaving that field goal opportunity on the board. They bring in Trey Lance, who's able to scamper in to the end zone for the touchdown. It's a great and gutsy call, knowing you're facing Aaron Rodgers down big and you need touchdowns. That makes it 17-7 at half. Now guys, if you're new to the channel, if you're enjoying the content thus far, please like and subscribe, and let's get into the second half. The Niners would start with the ball, and they face a 3rd down and 9 at the Green Bay 34. They get another huge catch by Deebo Samuel, this one for 25 yards. It sets up a 9-yard touchdown strike to Brandon Ayuk, finally back healthy. It makes it 17-14, and the Niners have now scored 2 straight touchdowns and put a little pressure back on this Green Bay offense. Now the Packers would go 3 and out on their first possession in the second half. However, the Niners are unable to capitalize on that momentum that they've so far garnered here in the second half, and they as well go 3 and out. Green Bay faces a 3rd down and 2 and gets bailed out by a defensive pass interference for 30+ yards for the second time in this game. Later on in the drive, they face a 3rd down and 4 from the San Francisco 12, threatening, and it is Marquez Valdes-Scantling with the touchdown. This was a huge turn of events because not once, but twice, San Francisco was unable to get off the field on 3rd down, and it's 24-14 Packers with 13:27 to go in the game. San Francisco, in a must-answer possession, faces their own 3rd down and 14. Now, the pass sail's incomplete, but they are bailed out themselves on a defensive pass interference for 30 yards. Garoppolo completes a 15-yard pass to Mohamed Sanu, and the only reason I mention it is because there was room for him down the middle of the field if this throw would have been better to catch and run with it. Instead, he has to reach out and just worry about securing it, and they don't get the huge play. As they continue to drive, Trey Lance once again makes an appearance on 2nd down and goal. He scrambles out and is able to draw a defensive holding penalty for the Niners, who then punch it in with Trey Sermon from 2 yards out to make it 24-21. Green Bay with a slim 3-point lead, 7 minutes, 48 seconds remaining. After Green Bay goes 3 and out, the Niners have an opportunity once again to wrestle this lead away from Green Bay. Now, they're helped out by a roughing the passer call, and then also Green Bay is called for a tripping penalty as they sack Jimmy. So this gives the 49ers great field position. They are now in Packers territory at the 46 when disaster strikes. Jimmy Garoppolo has a mindless fumble, backward pass type of thing where he looks up and decides that instead of taking the sack or trying to get rid of it, he's just gonna kind of chuck it to the side. It's a fumble, it's a turnover, and with 5 minutes left, Green Bay takes the ball back and they have the lead. The Niners defense holds. They do everything they can and force the Packers to kick a 38-yard field goal. So a great job by that defense standing strong after a ridiculous turnover by Garoppolo. San Francisco, with the game on the line and 2:39 to play, gets some big plays from their playmakers. It starts with George Kittle on a spectacular 40-yard catch and run, and then on 3rd down and 10, Deebo Samuel makes another great catch and conversion for them, and this drive is capped with a 12-yard touchdown to the fullback, Kyle Juszczyk, and it's 28-27 Niners, their first lead of the game with 37 seconds to play. And we think this one is over, right? 37 seconds, no timeouts for Green Bay. They gotta go about 40 yards to be able to get into field goal range. Easy for a 49ers defense who has looked really good in the second half. However, the wheels completely come off for San Francisco. I'm not sure if they forgot that Davante Adams is really good at football, but they let him open multiple times. He catches one from 25, he catches one from 17. Sprinkled in between that was a target for Davante Adams that fell incomplete. So the best player on the field that everyone knew was getting the ball in that situation catches 2 balls for 42 yards to give the Packers an opportunity to steal this win on the road. And that is exactly what they did. Mason Crosby from 50 yards out and ice water in his veins, nails it, and the Packers steal this one 30-28. If you have any questions or comments, please drop those down below. And now let's get into the full recap and reaction. And really the biggest keys to this one were San Francisco not being able to get anything going on the ground. It really hurt them in this game. They averaged just 3.2 yards per carry, and they are clearly not the same team when they aren't able to unleash from play action. Now, Mike Shanahan definitely tried to get creative to open things up, but it just wasn't enough. I loved his decision at the end of halftime to go for that touchdown, specifically considering those conditions, and that was ended with a Trey Lance touchdown run. But Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't able to extend the field or stretch it. He just looked okay, and he made some critical errors that ended up costing the Niners. I cannot believe the incomplete pass fumble thing that really turned the tides for Green Bay when the Niners could have stealed it, but you just cannot make those decisions and those plays in the game's most critical points. Now then, 49ers defense really turned it on in the second half, but giving up and spotting Green Bay 17 points early is something that you can't do. For the Packers, their big three of Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Jones looked spectacular. I would say their defense was solid overall as well, but they got bailed out a couple times with a few questionable calls and poor decisions by Jimmy. The special teams for Green Bay needs to be buttoned up. That long kick return was crucial and almost turned the tides for the Niners. I love the decisions and the aggressiveness by both coaches to go for it in really key situations. And even though LaFleur's didn't work, that was okay because the thought behind it made perfect sense. Let's now get into player stats for week 3 and projections for week 4. And we start with the Niners, who get the Seahawks at home in week 4. For Jimmy Garoppolo, he looked fine. He didn't show big play ability, and he was just 25 of 40 for 257 yards with 2 touchdowns. But he also had that interception and that bonehead fumble. It also makes you cringe that once again Trey Lance comes in and steals a touchdown opportunity from him. And even though I love the matchup next week, I am not comfortable starting Jimmy in any format. We talked about the workload concerns for Trey Sermon coming into a week in which we didn't know what that was going to look like, and that ended up ringing true. He had 10 carries for just 31 yards, so you don't love the 3.1 yards per carry average, and he did salvage his day, however, with that touchdown. He had 2 receptions for just 3 yards, which isn't very helpful, and it seemed clear that at least this week, the Niners were not comfortable giving him a full workload. They used the fullback, Kyle Juszczyk. He had 5 carries, and there were 7 different players for San Francisco who ended up having a carry. Now, I think he has flex potential depending on the RB injury situation. Elijah Mitchell, he was doubtful coming in, and he did not end up playing in this game. We move to the pass catchers, and we start with George Kittle, who had a huge game for managers that were waiting on him. He had 9 targets, 7 receptions, and 92 yards. He added a 9-yard run to get over that 100-yard on the day mark, and he has overall TE1 potential against the Seahawks defense, who just gave up a monster day to Tyler Conklin. Brandon Ayuk really made his first appearance of the game. He looked healthy and fresh in this one. He had 6 targets and 4 catches for 37 yards and scored that big touchdown, the first of the game for the Niners. He could be a wide receiver 3 next week against the Hawks. Now, we absolutely loved Deebo Samuel coming into this game, and he saw a 26% target share and 10 targets that should have allowed him to capitalize on that. However, he finished with just 5 catches for 52 yards. So it's an unfortunate day for him. He did look solid, but definitely didn't produce as we were hoping. I think he's a wide receiver 2 due to the volume and big playability that he's shown so far this season. If you're enjoying the content, if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. And now let's get into the Packers side of things. They get the Steelers in week 4, so definitely a tougher matchup, but this offense has looked great after really sputtering in week 1. Start with Aaron Rodgers, where his deep ball looked awesome. He was able to stretch the field and really put pressure on the Niners defense, especially early on. He finished 23 out of 33 for 261 yards and a pair of touchdowns. He also had a ton of pass interference yards that don't show up in the stats, or he would have easily surpassed 300 yards. I think we have to temper expectations against a really good Steelers defense. However, he's still a solid QB1 next week. For the pass catchers, we'll start with MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He had 3 catches on 4 targets for 59 yards. He looks like the wide receiver 2 in this offense, I think, but he's too inconsistent with his targets on a weekly basis to play him. I think he is a decent waiver stash for now. Vontae Adams was a monster in this game. He had a 58% target share. 18 out of the 31 overall. Like we said he was going to. He got into the end zone for the first time this year, and he had 12 receptions for 132 yards. He balled out and is a wide receiver 1 all day. Robert Tonyan reminds us of the pain of the tight end position. He had 1 catch on his only target for a measly 8 yards. Now that target was inside the 10-yard line, so you kind of like that, I guess. I still think he's a low-end tight end 1 just because of the upside in the Green Bay offense. Don't give up on him just yet. We head to the running back room, where we start with Aaron Jones. Another huge day from him. He had 19 carries to A.J. Dillon's 6, so you love to see that. He finished with 82 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He fumbled but didn't turn it over, and he also added 2 catches for 14 yards out of the backfield. He is a stud RB1, even in a tough matchup next week against Pittsburgh. On those 6 carries, A.J. Dillon turned him into just 18 yards, so you don't love the 3 yards per carry average, but he is still one of the better cuffs to own in fantasy. You are holding him in case of an injury. And that'll pretty much wrap it up there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave any questions or comments down below. This is Relentless Press. We'll see you next time.